I'm doing something called Christmas in August. I've compiled all of my Christmas videos from this past Christmas and put them into one video. I've removed all the fluff or filler. So enjoy. Hi all. Today I'm showing you a Southern hors d'oeuvre. These are my bite-sized mini pimento cheese corn muffins. They're perfect for the holiday season. You just pop them in your mouth. They're delicious. Ingredients you'll need: a half a cup of mayonnaise, 8 ounces of sharp cheddar, 6 ounces of pimentos, 1 box of Jiffy corn muffin mix, 1 egg, 1/3 of a cup of milk, and 1 tablespoon of onion powder. You'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And here I'm just grating the sharp cheddar. You can use mild cheddar, you can use extra sharp cheddar. It's just up to you. I actually shredded a whole block of 16 ounces, and that's because I had another recipe that I had to make that required pimento cheese. So that's why there's such a big block, but I only put a cup and a half actually in the mix. Now this is a great hors d'oeuvre for the holiday season. They're just bite-sized. You put them in your mouth. They're delicious. They have that unctuous flavor that pimento cheese has, and then of course it is a little corn muffin, which is delicious, and you serve it warm. You can also serve a dip if you want, but I don't think that's necessary. They're perfect when they're warm. Pop them in your mouth. Excellent hors d'oeuvre. So once I have this grated, I move on to the next bit, and that is I want the pimentos to be chopped, and not so fine. You can use a knife if you want and a board. As you know, I have horrible chopping skills. I put them into the food processor for just a moment. You'll see, it just blitzed it real quick, and I just used half the jar.
This is a pound of cheese. I'm going to do a half a bottle.
And I asked my mama if that was enough, and she said yes. She was in the kitchen as I made all these recipes, because they're basically her mama's, and some of them are hers. So I always ask her advice for everything. I always act like I don't know, but of course I do know. I'm a lot older than I sound. And so then I just add a half a cup of mayonnaise. I actually added a whole cup, but it's a half a cup for this recipe. And then the pimentos. And then I'm going to mix everything together.
So I'm making so much pimento. Oh, I need more, definitely more. Special.
And that's done. And now I move on to, now I'm using Jiffy. I'm going to link my recipe below for the actual corn muffins that are my grandma's, but this is easier. And especially when you're in a hurry, it's a great hors d'oeuvre. So it's 1 egg, 1/3 of a cup of milk. We're following the directions on the package. You mix and just till barely combined. And that's it. You don't want to overmix it, because although it is a quick bread, you don't want to develop any gluten. So we're just mixing till it's barely combined. You break up any lumps. As you'll see, I'm kind of going up and down with the whisk to try to break up any big things. And I had a mini non-stick cupcake baking tray, and I put in mini cupcake liners. And you don't have to use that. It's not necessary. If you have a non-stick mini cupcake tray like I do, you don't really need them. In fact, I tried it both ways. I decided you didn't need it. Now, I added a tablespoon of onion powder to this. And you may not think you would need it, but it tastes wonderful. It's perfect. And now I'm just adding 1.5 cups of the pimento cheese. All my measuring cups were all dirty, so I had to use the half cup, which is fine, because I am adding 1.5 cups. And then I'm just mixing everything together, and then I'm going to fill. I'm using a teaspoon scoop. It's actually just a teaspoon measuring spoon. That's what I used to fill each of the mini cupcake liners. Now, I will say this. You don't have to use the paper liners, just use the thing. That's perfectly fine. What I would suggest, which I did later on, was normally I don't use these. I just serve them as a side.
What is
But
it?
because I thought this would make a great hors d'oeuvre, what you can do is you can take some extra pimentos and put them on top of each of the mini corn muffins, and it's very colorful. You'll see at the end I did that. I tried something different. So the last ones I did it without the paper liners. It wasn't even necessary. I thought it was easier to get them out without the paper liners. So you don't need the paper liners actually. Although I did buy some holiday ones for because I thought it would be kind of cute. Some Christmassy ones. And they're so delicious. They're just really good with the pimento cheese. Let's face it, everything's better with pimento cheese. That's if you're Southerner, you believe that. So I filled everything up, and I just put a little bit of extra pimento on top of each of the corn muffins. And I don't show it, but I did. And then I'm going to place this into the preheated oven, but you'll see that I had put the pimentos. And it's going to bake for 9 to 11 minutes as it did before. The oven's still at 350. And when you bring them out, you'll want to serve them warm because that's when they're best, because the cheese is all gooey and kind of pulley. I'm not sure why this clip is very slow. I did not film it as slow. But this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. Serve them warm. If you want, you can put a dipping sauce, but it's really not necessary. Hi all, today I'm showing you how to make a Southern side dish for the holidays. It's my mama's Southern cranberry relish. It's absolutely delicious and perfect for the holiday season. Ingredients you'll need: a 6-ounce box of cherry jello, 2 cups of orange juice, a 12-ounce package of fresh cranberries, 2 cups of pecans, the zest of 1 orange, a half a cup of granulated sugar, and 1 drop of orange oil. First up, I wash and I sort the cranberries. I do it twice usually. Once the sink when I'm washing, and then the second time right before I get to put it in the food processor. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for any cranberry that is soft. You need to remove those. Those aren't good cranberries, and you don't want to put them in the relish. It's time consuming, but it's very worth it. This, of course, is a fresh cranberry relish. There is no pickling or anything like that. It's just what we call it here in the South. So my mom has been making this for, gosh, as long as I've been alive. A long time. And once I've sorted everything out, I put them into the food processor to be chopped. And I'm looking for small pieces. And I'm going to blitz them until I get them. I can see through the funnel when I've achieved that. And I just pulse it. That way you don't get pieces that are too small. And inevitably, there'll be some that just don't chop. So what I do is I pour everything into a mixing bowl. And I go through again and I pick out any ones that haven't been chopped at all. And I put them back into the food processor to be chopped up with the pecans. That's next. As you can see, I had like maybe 12. And now I'm just measuring out 2 cups of pecans. I'm going to put it into the food processor. I'll chop these up and then add them to the mixing bowl. And now just add it to the mixing bowl. Next, I work on the cranberry sugar mixture. I pour the Jell-O packet into a bowl along with 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And while I'm waiting for the water to boil, I mix the cranberry and nuts together. And now I pour 2 cups of boiling water into a 4-cup measuring cup. And then I'm going to add the Jell-O sugar mixture into the boiling water. And I'm going to stir thoroughly to dissolve the sugar and Jell-O mixture. And then I pour it over the cranberry and pecans. Now I measure out 2 cups of orange juice. And then I'm going to pour it over the nuts and cranberry and stir thoroughly. And then I pour the cranberry relish into a mixing bowl. And then next I zest one orange.
Fine, and you said yes.
And put the zest into the mixing bowl.
We're going to be making it again this holiday season, I am sure.
And finally, I add 1 drop of orange oil. This just gives a really nice depth of flavor to the relish. And I stir everything together thoroughly before putting it into the refrigerator to set. I place foil over it, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours to really set. You really want it set. Then before serving, I always mix the relish up to break up any pieces of gelatin. And I always serve the relish cold. And this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. I guarantee you, if you make it, everyone will love it. Hi all, today I'm doing some Christmas decorating. It's a very short video because it's Thanksgiving. First off, this is my room before I started decorating it. It's my normal blue, green, and gold that I have in the room. And Monkey is sleeping on the bed. And it's pretty normal. No, that lamp is not on fire. It just it looks like a candle, the bulb. And this is, I pulled out all the decorations I have that I'm going to use in the room. And I use these every year. I got these actually last year, most of them. And what I had, I did list in the description. This is what it looks like now. I decorated a little mini tree that I bought. And unfortunately, those pillows aren't available anymore. But they have other ones at Target if you really want to go over there. And most of the decorations did come from Target, just to let you know. I found it very convenient. I just said, oh, that's good. They don't even have that anymore, which is a neck record. They have a different one. And this is what it looked like. I think it came out really well. I love the tartan pillows. And this is it at nighttime with all the candles and everything. These are all fake candles. I don't use real. And yeah, came out beautifully. Mama was in there last night. She loved it. And this is a branch that I fell last year in the backyard. I painted it white, and I stuck it in some white stones that I got in a vase. And then I put these little tea lights, fairy lights around it, each branch. I had about 5 of them. And I linked it down below what I used from Amazon. And it came out really well, I think. It took forever to wrap them all around these branches, but it came out beautifully, I thought. And then I put down some like fake snow I got from Target, not available, different brands available now. And then I have a village that I bought from Target, not available, and little trees. And as you can see, everything is in a remote, so I don't have to turn everything off, on and off every night. It's just very simple. Everything is remote. Makes life a lot easier. And this is what it looks like. It came out really beautiful. I may add some greenery to the top of the mirror. I haven't decided yet. It's just that I have so many rooms to do, and it's just little old me doing it for Mama. But I think it came out really beautiful, and Mama's very happy with it. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Everything that's still available, I link below in the description. Hi all, welcome to A Southern Woman's Lifestyle. It's our first Vlogmas, it's December 1st, and we're super excited to be showing you all of our traditions. Now first up, I'm showing you a Southern dessert, which is hummingbird cake. It's a traditional cake here in the South, and I'm doing it as a cupcake, and that's because at parties you want to make it easy for people to pick up food and be able to walk around the room and circulate. It's absolutely delicious. Ingredients you'll need: 3 room temperature eggs, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 cup of crushed pineapple, 2.5 cups of pecans, 4 very ripe bananas, 1.5 cups of vegetable oil, 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and 2 cups of granulated sugar. You'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now first up, I measure out the flour and I put it in a mixing bowl. And then next I'm going to add the granulated sugar. And then I'm going to be adding this kosher salt, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And I mix everything really, really well because you want to make sure there's no clumps of salt or spice, or there's no clumps of sugar. Everything is thoroughly mixed together. That's very important. And then next I'm going to be toasting off 2.5 cups of pecans, and I'm putting it in a baking dish, and then I'm going to put it into the preheated oven for 6 to 8 minutes. I'm toasting them because it just tastes better in the cake. It makes a real difference, I feel. And then next I'm going to crack open the 3 room temperature eggs, and I usually do it into a dish or a cup before putting it into the stand mixer. I don't want any broken shells in there. It's just easier, I find. And then I add them to the stand mixer bowl, and then I'm going to measure out 1.5 cups of vegetable oil. Now this cake is a little different. By the way, then I put it into the stand mixer bowl and then turn it on high. This cake is a little different. Normally you would cream the sugar and oil together and then add the eggs. This is different. And by the way, I just added a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I'm measuring out a cup of crushed pineapple. It's just a little different. It's very moist, this cake. And with the stand mixer off, I'm going to add the 4 bananas to the stand mixer. And I bring out the nuts and let them cool for about 20 minutes before I chopping them up very finely. I set aside 1/2 cup of the toasted pecans for decoration. And once that's done, I add the chopped pecans to the flour mixture that has this sugar and spice and everything nice. And then I thoroughly mix everything together, coating the nuts and the flour, and everything is all together. And then next, I'm going to turn on the stand mixer on medium. And this is to break up the bananas, and I'm going to add the pineapple. When I feel everything's incorporated, then I start adding the flour and nut mixture. And we're going to turn it on medium, and you're just going to mix it until it's just barely combined, because as always with a cake, you don't want to develop the gluten. You want it to stay a very tender, moist cake. And it comes together really fast. And until it's just barely combined, then I take a tin. By the way, this makes between 30 and 36 cupcakes. I'm using cupcake liners in a muffin tin, and I fill it up 3/4 of the way, the batter. And this always takes a moment. And then I place the cupcakes in the preheated 350-degree oven, and I bake for 20-25 minutes. And I always test after 20 minutes, stick a toothpick in to see if it comes out clean. If it does, then they're ready. Then I let the cupcakes cool in a wire rack. That's very important. And then I repeat the process until I get through all of the batter. And again, it makes between 30 and 36 cupcakes. And these can be made a few days in advance to make life easier for you. Ingredients you'll need for the coconut cream cheese frosting: 8 ounces of room temperature cream cheese, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 stick of room temperature salted butter, 2 teaspoons of coconut extract, 3 cups of powdered sugar. First up, in the mixing bowl, I add the room temperature butter and cream cheese, and I mix on high. You'll never get it done if you don't do room temperature, just a tip. Then I scrape down the bowl, and then I turn it on again, and now I'm going to add 3 cups of powdered sugar. And after you get everything in there, turn it on low, don't turn it on high, or you're going to have powdered sugar all over your kitchen. And then next I'm adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I scrape down the bowl. And now I add the 2 teaspoons of coconut extract while the machine is on. And the recipe again makes between 30 and 36 cupcakes. And now we're just going to frost the cupcakes. I tend to be very generous with the frosting. mainly because my mama likes frosting. And again, you can make these a few days ahead of time. You can also freeze them. I froze half of them, and that way I can pull them out during the season. And I held back a half a cup of the toasted pecans, and now I'm chopping them to put as decoration on top of each cupcake. They look really pretty and they're absolutely delicious. I guarantee you, if you make these, they will be a hit. Hi all, welcome to A Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is day 2 of my first Vlogmas. I'm so excited. Today it's hors d'oeuvres. This is one of my favorite hors d'oeuvres to have with cocktails. It's the Union Square Cafe Bar Nuts. They are so addictive and delicious. I guarantee you, if you make them, everybody's going to eat them up. Ingredients you'll need: a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 2 teaspoons of Maldon salt or fleur de sal, 2 tablespoons of coarsely chopped fresh rosemary leaves, 1 tablespoon of butter, 2 1/4 cups of deluxe mixed nuts, and 2 teaspoons of dark brown sugar. First up, I measure out the nuts. It's 2 1/4 cups of deluxe mixed nuts. And I went and picked some fresh rosemary out of my garden. And I stripped the leaves off from the woody stem. It takes a moment. Of course, I washed the rosemary before I did this. You gotta wash them thoroughly if you're using fresh from your garden. And I coarsely chopped 2 tablespoons of fresh rosemary. This is just the leaves, not the woody stem. And it just takes a moment. And the next, over a medium heat, I take 1 tablespoon of butter and put it into a skillet. And I just stir it around. And the next I add the coarsely chopped rosemary leaves. That's 2 tablespoons. And I mix it around in the butter, coating all the leaves. And then I add a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper and mix it around. And then next I add the dark brown sugar. That's 2 teaspoons of dark brown sugar. Mix it around, mix well. And then finally I add the nuts. That's 2 1/4 cups of deluxe mixed nuts. And I want to thoroughly coat the nuts in the sauce that I've created with the herbs and the spice and the sugar and the butter. The final step will be adding the salt, and that's 2 teaspoons of Maldon salt. I only had fleur de sal, which is perfectly fine. And then you pull it from the heat after you've done this. Mix it well, of course, first. And then I'm going to serve the nuts warm. You want to be careful not to have the heat too high because you don't want to scorch anything or burn the leaves of the rosemary. And this is what it looks like. It goes perfect with cocktails. Everybody always loves it. I guarantee if you make this, people will love it. Hi all, welcome to A Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas. This is day 3, and we're very excited to be showing you all of our traditions. Today it's Southern desserts. It's one of my favorite cookies. It's my grandma's Southern bourbon balls. My mom has been making these for as long as she's been alive. She used to help her mama in the kitchen making them. Ingredients you'll need: 3 cups of powdered sugar, a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, 1 cup of pecans, a 1/2 cup of Maker's Mark bourbon, an 11-ounce box of vanilla wafers, and 2 tablespoons of light Caro syrup. First up, I measure out a cup of pecans, and I'm going to finely chop them in the food processor. You can do it by hand if you want, but this is just easiest for me. And then I put the chopped pecans into a bowl and set them to the side. And then next, I'm going to be working on the vanilla wafers. I usually do it in 2 parts. I'm looking for a fine sand. You can put them in a plastic bag and mash them with, a rolling pin if you want, but this is just easiest for me.
Plug yours, Mom. It's going to be a moment.
And it takes a minute. And then, of course, I'm going to put them into the bowl, and then I'll work on the next batch.
Perfect.
This is the simplest cookie ever. My mama was talking about how it's been around forever. I think the recipe first came out in 1936, and she was born in 1935. And her mama would have her, crush the cookies for her.
We used to have to roll them out with a ruler.
I think she's
Yeah.
talking about
That's what your mama used to make you do?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's my trick.
And then I put them
I bought a
into
fresh
the
coconut basin
bowl.
season.
And now I'm just going to
I
be
said,
adding
"Oh, I need a fresh
a
coconut."
1/4 cup of cocoa powder.
There's a shortage of cocoa now.
I don't know, Ma. I think there was gonna be, but I think that the dock shortage or something. But I
Again,
do
this
think
is the
that,
simplest cookie you'll ever make,
Because of, I think they said
but
because of
one of the most delicious. And I mix everything
Mix it
thoroughly,
really
just
well
making sure
together.
there's no pockets of cocoa or anything. Just
I gotta put the sugar
everything
in.
is
I gotta
thoroughly
put it
mixed.
down.
And next I'm going to be adding a cup of powdered sugar. Mix well again.
Can't go daddy well, huh?
And next I'm just adding 2 tablespoons of light caramel syrup. And again, mix well. And then I just added a 1/2 cup of Maker's Mark bourbon, most important part. And then I mix well. This just takes a moment. I go to spin everything around and make sure everything is hydrated with the bourbon.
Oh, this smells like Christmas to me. Making this smell of bourbon balls smells like Christmas to me.
And then I shape them into 1-inch balls. This is easiest with a little cookie scoop. And then I just toss them into the 2 cups. I have it in a plastic bag of powdered sugar. And making sure each ball is coated in the powdered sugar. And again, this always takes a
I'm gonna make
moment.
a few small ones for you, okay? I'm making a few small ones for you, okay?
I don't know what my mom and I are talking about.
So you can be my helper. I'm almost done.
So one of the things I always make sure, because I always put 2 cups of powdered sugar in the plastic bag, is you want to make sure that the balls are completely coated in the powdered sugar.
Next time I'm gonna
That's
buy
really
them a bigger
important.
square.
And then I'm going to wrap each bourbon ball in some foil. You don't have to buy these fancy gold ones, but they are pretty. We normally just would use foil, but you usually want about a 4x4. And it does take a moment to do them all, unfortunately. I wish it was faster, but it's not. So, yeah.
2 pumpkins.
I love going back and listening to the audio.
Country road?
It's always fun.
What do you mean?
My mom asked her what she was thinking. She says, a country road, just a country road. Because they're so popular, I would suggest making double the amount I made
Almost
here.
done.
And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. I promise you, if you make them, people will love them. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. It's our first Vlogmas ever. This is day 4, and we're on to Southern hors d'oeuvres. This is a dish that my mama came up with. She took her mama's pimento cheese and turned it into a dip. It's incredible. It's always a crowd pleaser, and it's so easy to make and has very few ingredients. Everyone will love it. Ingredients you'll need: 8 ounces of sharp cheddar, 1 teaspoon of hot sauce, 1/2 cup of mayonnaise, 6-ounce jar of pimentos, and 1/2 cup of sour cream. First up, I'm just going to grate the cheese. It just takes a moment because I always use the hand grater. But you could use the food processor if you have that. And the reason why I do that before putting it in, it's a smoother consistency. And now I'm just going to chop the pimentos. You can do it with a knife and a chopping board if you don't want to use the food processor, but it really is necessary to get the dip smooth. And then I just take the pimentos out and I put them to the side and for later. And now I'm just going to add the cheese into the food processor. And then next I'll add 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. I like Hellmann's or Duke's. It's up to you, whatever you like. And then 1/2 cup of sour cream. And then next, a teaspoon of good hot sauce. You could use 2 if you wanted. I just don't use 1 because I'm always afraid that there might be somebody who's spice sensitive, and I don't want to blow their socks off. I just want them to enjoy the dish. And we're just going to blend it. Use the food processor until it's velvety smooth. And the reason why for the sour cream, as opposed to just whipping it up and with just the normal mayonnaise is because this will make it a very smooth dip to be able to get your cracker and your crudité through. And we also don't put the pimento in at that time is because it would turn it a very kind of pinky orange color, and it wouldn't be very appetizing looking. And now I'm just going to stir it together and make sure everything is thoroughly mixed. And then I'm going to put it in a storage container and put it in the refrigerator to chill. It can be kept in the refrigerator for up to a week after making it. I try to let it cool for at least 2 hours before serving it. And this is what it looks like. I served it with colorful carrots and cucumber and Ritz crackers and little tomatoes. It's absolutely delicious. I guarantee if you make it, everyone will love it. Hi all, welcome to A Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas. We're very excited. It's day 5. It's Southern hors d'oeuvres today. This is a classic. Everyone in the South has a recipe for this. This is my grandma's Southern spice candy pecans. They're perfect with cocktails, and this time of the year, they're always a favorite. Ingredients you'll need: 1 egg white, a pinch of cayenne pepper, a half a cup of granulated sugar, 2 to 4 cups of pecans, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. You'll need to preheat your oven to 250 degrees. First up, I just add a half a cup of sugar to a mixing bowl with a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and a pinch of cayenne pepper. And I mix everything together, making sure I break up any lumps of spices. I want everything to be well incorporated. And next, I take 1 egg white, and I'm going to put it into the stand mixer bowl. And I use my hands because I find if I use the shell, I'm more likely to break the yolk, and which will ruin the whole purpose of doing an egg white. So, and then I add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I whip it on high until it's light and fluffy, and then I'm going to add the pecans. And I want to thoroughly coat the pecans in the egg white mixture. And then I add the sugar and spice mixture, and I mix well. You can do up to 4 cups. I only did 2. They only last a week, so that's one of the reasons why I only did 2 cups. And I spread the nuts evenly out on this foil-lined tray that I made.
They only last for a week.
And then after that, I'm going to place the nuts in a preheated oven at 250 degrees. And they're going to bake between 50 and 60 minutes. And when they come out, I let them rest for 1 hour.
Boy, it smells good, doesn't it?
Before scraping them off the sheet. And they'll keep in a storage container again for 1 week. Or you can serve them right away in serving dishes. They're absolutely delicious with cocktails. They're a holiday favorite here in the South. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. I guarantee if you make these Southern favorites, everyone will love them. Hi all, welcome to A Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas and we're on day 6. It's hors d'oeuvres. Now this is a very simple hors d'oeuvre. I wanted to show you things you could make in a snap and they would be delicious. This is a salt and pepper kettle chip with smoked salmon and a lemon creme fraiche topped with chives. It's absolutely delicious with the cocktails and at any party you might have. Ingredients you'll need: an 8-ounce bag of salt and pepper kettle chips, 2 tablespoons of minced chives, 1/3 cup of creme fraiche, the zest of 1 lemon, and 4 to 6 ounces of good smoked salmon. First up, I just mince the chives into very small pieces, and this will be the garnish on top of every chip that you serve. And this is also something you want to serve immediately. And then I slice the smoked salmon into 1-inch pieces. You can do bigger if you'd like, but I find 1 inch is perfectly acceptable. And once I do this, it goes very fast. I guess the only complicated thing is zesting the lemon into the creme fraiche and stirring it. But the assembly is really fast and people love it and they go very fast. So I'm going to warn you, you're going to have to make a lot of these. But you want to make them right before you serve. And this is just zesting 1 lemon into the 1/3 cup of creme fraiche that I put into the bowl. And once I've done that, I stir well. This is such an easy hors d'oeuvre appetizer to make. And then I'm going to put the salt and pepper kettle chips down on a serving dish. And then I'm going to put a dollop of the creme fraiche, as you see, on each potato chip. And even people who don't like smoked salmon love this hors d'oeuvre. And it's so easy to make. And you can keep all the ingredients in the house and just whip it together real fast. I mean, the creme fraiche should last you. It's lasted me a good month. That's been sealed. So I always keep some in the refrigerator along with smoked salmon. And then I just add a piece of smoked salmon on each top of each potato chip that already has the lemon creme fraiche down. But I'm trying to show you hors d'oeuvres and appetizers that you can make in a pinch that are super fast with ingredients you can keep on hand, that you can serve real fast. Especially time is if you're in a time crunch, if you work, you want to throw something together, you want to bring something, you want to make something. This is an easy one. And I have a few others I'm going to be showing you very shortly. And then I just add another small dollop of lemon creme fraiche on top of each of the pieces of salmon. And then finally, I will garnish with chives. 4 ounces of salmon should give you about 30 to 40 individual potato chips. If you're going to do 8 ounces, I would go up to 60 or 90 appetizers you would get. Depending on how, some people want bigger than 1-inch pieces of salmon, but I think that's fine. But like I said, I always keep these ingredients now on hand because, especially during holiday party season, I want to be able to whip something out if I need to. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. I guarantee if you make them, people will love them. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is day 7 and we're still on hors d'oeuvres. I wanted to show you another dish that you can keep and the ingredients on hand and make really fast. These are my cranberry, walnut, brie, and rosemary puff pastry tartlets. They're super delicious and easy to make. Ingredients you'll need: puff pastry sheets, 8 ounces of good brie cheese, a 1/4 cup of walnuts, a 1/2 cup of homemade cranberry sauce, and 3 sprigs of fresh rosemary. You'll need to preheat your oven to 375 degrees. First off, I finely chopped the walnuts.
That's why I use the food processor
I
normally.
felt I couldn't really use the food processor for that, so I did that by hand. And next I stripped the leaves from the fresh rosemary that I've already washed, by the way. And then I finely chopped the rosemary leaves.
Okay, I think that's good enough. I had just...
Next, I defrosted the puff pastry sheets. Go by the directions, by the way, sheet directions. And I put down a little flour and I rolled out, and then I cut the 3 columns. I just followed the seams. I cut in half, and I cut that in half, and that's how I arrived at 12. But I only used 1 sheet. If I was going to use the entire box, which was 2 sheets, I would have gotten 24 tartlets. Again, this is a super easy appetizer to keep in your refrigerator because you keep the puff pastry, you can make the cranberry sauce ahead of time. It will keep for about 2 weeks in the refrigerator. And of course, keep your walnuts and brie cheese and rosemary. I've just sprayed a little pan there. Wasn't necessary to do that actually, because this is a brand new muffin pan that's non-stick and nothing is sticking to this thing. So I just put them in there. This is a mini, that was a mini muffin tin, and I just put the puff pastries in there. Now I'm cutting up the brie to go in the puff pastry, and I did like 1-inch pieces. I'm sorry for the sound quality. I'm on a different computer today.
me just fill them up.
Come on.
And I would say my sister thought that I should have used a stronger cheese. You could use a goat cheese, I guess, if you wanted, but I wouldn't use the rosemary if that were the case. That would just be too many strong flavors. You could use a stronger brie. They have stronger bries. This is a mild one that I found at Whole Foods. This is a splurge because it was $14 a pound, and that's a lot of money. But it tasted delicious. But you could go for a stronger flavored brie. And what I mean by that is they can have a stronger, funkier flavor. And this is what they look like filled with the cheese. And now I'm just sprinkling each tartlet with the chopped rosemary. You can use as much or little as you like. I just used a little because I was still experimenting with flavors. And I added a teaspoon of cranberry sauce to the top of each of the tartlets. This is homemade cranberry sauce. It's my grandma's recipe. I have a video going up tomorrow for it, so. And when you're baking this, put a pan underneath the mini tart pan. And the reason being, sometimes cheese does bubble up, and sometimes, same with the cranberry sauce. So I would suggest putting a pan underneath, so you don't have to clean your oven out. It's a great hors d'oeuvre all around. And next I will, after I put the cranberry on, I sprinkle the chopped walnuts. You can use any nut, but I chose walnuts because I thought it added a nice flavor contrast to the cranberry and the brie. And after I've done that, I sprinkle a little Florida salt in each tartlet, or you can use melted salt. Up to you. Place them in the refrigerator for 25 minutes. Bring it back out after 25 minutes. Then place them in the oven that's been preheated to 375 degrees for 18 to 20 minutes. And then bring them out and then remove them from the pan and cool them on a wire rack. You'll want to serve them warm or room temperature, not hot because it's cheese. You'll burn your mouth. I did put a little sprig of rosemary in each of the tartlets. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. Make them and I guarantee you they will be a crowd pleaser. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. It's day 8. Today we're doing a Southern side dish. It's my grandma's Southern cranberry sauce. It's perfect for the holidays. It's very simple and easy to make, so stress-free. Ingredients you'll need: the zest of 1 orange, a half a cup of granulated sugar, half a cup of orange juice, 12 ounces of fresh cranberries, and 1 teaspoon of grated ginger. First off, I wash and I sort through the cranberries. Discard any ones that are soft. You don't want any cranberry that's soft. It takes a moment, but it's well worth it. When they're soft, it means they've gone bad. You don't want a bad cranberry in there. This is the only time-consuming part of the recipe. The next, we're going to take a half a cup of orange juice and pour it into a saucepan and add a half a cup of sugar and 1 teaspoon of grated ginger. And I'm going to add the washed and sorted fresh cranberries, and I'm going to mix thoroughly.
So leave the stove now. Was she?
And over a low-medium flame, cook the cranberries. Now, I will say the ginger is my addition. Grandma never had ginger, but I like the ginger. So if you want to just have strictly what my grandma had, just omit the ginger. And I'm adding a zest of 1 orange. And then I mix well. And now I'm going to simmer over a low medium flame until the cranberries thicken. And when it's thickened, I remove it from the heat to cool. You can store it in a Tupperware in the refrigerator until you're ready to serve, and this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. It goes perfect with ham or turkey. It's gorgeous. Hi all, welcome to A Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas, and this is day 9. We're on hors d'oeuvres, and this is one of my favorite hors d'oeuvres to make. It's easy and delicious. It is my steak and alouette garlic and herb cheese crostini. It's absolutely easy and delicious to make. If you make it, I guarantee you everyone will love it. Ingredients you'll need: chives, alouette garlic and herb cheese, an 8-ounce steak, olive oil, and a French baguette. You'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. First up, I cook the steak over a medium-high flame, and I flip the steak every minute for a total of 6 minutes. This gives you a perfect medium rare. And I remove it from the heat when it's done, and I let it rest for 20 minutes. Next, I finely chop the chives. This just takes a minute. I've discussed it, I'm the worst chopper. Next, I go on to cut thin slices of the French baguette. You want them thin because you're going to be toasting in the oven with olive oil. And I just gotten this the day before, and it's already getting a little hard to cut, but just remember, try to cut them thin. And I prefer the alouette, by the way, herb cheese, than to, I can't remember how they pronounce the other one.
Everybody loves that herby cheese.
And next I place the bread slices on the baking sheet to be toasted. And once I pick off any ones that are too thick, because I want ones that are thin. Because there's the soft meat, the soft cheese, you want something crunchy. You want different textures, that's why. And then I'm just brushing a little olive oil all over them. And I can't believe I forgot one of them. You'll see. I forgot to brush one of them. My mom was in the kitchen. Sometimes I get distracted. And the cat. The cat was driving me crazy. She kept trying to jump up, and I'm like, get down. She was getting on the back of my mama's chair. And then I just place it in the oven, and I bake it for 5 to 7 minutes in the preheated 350 degree oven. And then I bring them out. And next, after the steak is rested, I'm going to thinly slice this steak. It came out perfect. It's a medium rare. And the reason why you do a minute on each side is it allows the steak to cook really evenly. Not one side gets more done than the other. That's why you flip it every minute. Every minute. I have a timer, actually, I put on. A little egg timer. And now it's sliced, and then I'm going to place the toasted thin slices of bread on a serving dish. And I'm going to begin assembly. As I said, I prefer the alouette to the other brand. I can't pronounce it. It starts with a B, I know that. The other one's very crumbly. This is alouette's a lot more smooth. And yeah. And you just cut off any fat in the slices of steak. You don't want that. Give it to your dog, your cat. And now I'm just putting a generous smear of the garlic herb cheese on each slice of bread.
Another book I want you to finish, Mom. Try, it's so good. I think you'd really love it. I know you like those murder mysteries.
And then I put the steak on top of the cheese that I've smeared on there.
Daisy, stop it.
This is actually one of the favorite hors d'oeuvres that I make for people. They really love it. I guess because you're getting a little steak. They also really like the shrimp dip that I make, which you're going to get to see coming weeks. I'm sorry, the fruitcake, it is coming. Unfortunately, I was having trouble with my, I use iMovie, and I had to switch to a different device.
I'm gonna take my picture after you can try one.
So what I had done, I had to do it all over again. It's kind of a pain. But I'll get the fruitcake video out, I swear. I know, 2 people asked for it, I'm surprised. But anyways, so now I'm just topping each of the pieces of bread with steak now. And
I'm so impressed with
then I'm gonna
myself.
put a smear on top, a little smear of the cheese on top of the steak. And this is so that, one, it's decorative, but also the chives that I've chopped will adhere to it.
On top like that. Kitty, I'm telling you no. She just keeps trying. It's so annoying. No.
And if you want to cook your steak a little bit more than medium rare,
That's,
go for it.
I love them.
I just think
They drive me crazy.
the medium rare is the perfect doneness for a steak.
This morning I was trying to get dressed for my boy. He wouldn't leave me alone. You okay, Mama? Bad.
And now I just garnish by sprinkling a little bit of chive on top of each of the crostinis. It's now a crostini. And I forgot to put chive on one of them, but this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. If you make it, I swear, people will love it. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. It's our first one, and we are on day 10. It's Southern desserts. This is something that my family's been making for well over 125 years. It's my grandma's Southern fruitcake. It's delicious. I know fruitcake gets a bad rap, but make it, you'll love it. Ingredients you'll need: 2/3 cup of butter, 4 eggs, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 1/4 teaspoons of ground allspice, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 8 ounces of candied citron peel, 8 ounces of candied cherries, 1/3 cup of candied orange peel, 8 ounces of candied pineapple, 1/3 cup of candied lemon peel, 1 cup of blanched almonds, 2/3 cup of dark brown sugar, 3 cups of pecans, 1/4 cup of apricot preserves, 2/3 cup of strawberry preserves, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 3 tablespoons of fruit juice, 1/3 cup of molasses, 7 tablespoons of cognac or brandy, 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. Preheat your oven to 250 degrees. First up, I'm going to chop the blanched almonds. I'm using the food processor. It's much faster. And I put it into a bowl. And then I work on the pecans. I have 3 cups of pecans here. And I'm going to chop up the food processor. And I'll put it in the same bowl as the chopped almonds.
I had to put my toad back in.
Now I'm adding 1/3 cup of candied lemon peel and 1/3 cup of candied orange peel. And then I'm going to add an 8-ounce
Whole thing.
container of candied pineapple and 8 ounces of candied cherries and 8 ounces of candied citron peel. Back in the day, my grandma would do this, you know, candying all the peels that are necessary. And now I'm just adding 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour.
Why do we put flour on stuff, Mom? Do you want to explain that to people?
What?
Why do we dredge things in flour? Do you want to explain that to people?
Yeah, because it kept it from sinking.
So all the fruits and nuts, it will keep them from sinking in the batter, right?
Yeah.
Cinnamon or...
And now I'm going to sift 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour into a bowl.
Yeah.
And once I've done that, I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of the baking soda, and then 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and then 1.5 teaspoons of the ground allspice, and then 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. And then I'm going to sift the flour and spices together one more time. white bowl to the side. And now into the mixing bowl, I'm adding 2/3 cup of dark brown sugar. I'm adding the butter, and I'm going to cream them together. And now I'm adding 1/3 of a cup of molasses. And I'm adding 4 egg yolks to the batter. Now I did make a mistake, which is, it happens. I've been baking for a very long time. A long time. And I was supposed to whip up the egg whites and then fold them back in at the end, and I completely forgot. We're mixing it on medium, by the way.
Okay, what's next?
We're gonna scrape down the bowl. But that just goes to prove that I'm human and every baker makes mistakes. And we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of fruit juice. It could be apple, cherry, whatever you want. 3 tablespoons of cognac or brandy. And then 2/3 cup of strawberry preserves. My grandma had a tremendous amount of strawberry preserves, so she was always thinking ways to use what she had on hand. And now I'm adding the fruit and nuts. And once I have them all in the bowl, I will turn the mixer on low. And put my hands over the bowl so nothing flies out. Now I've turned off the mixer, and now I'm going to be adding the dry ingredients, which is the flour and spice mixture. And it has to be added by hand and folded in. And you'll see they go down and around with a spatula. And it will take you a good minute to get it all in there, and you need to go slow and be methodical, because you don't want any flour that's not fully incorporated into the batter. And you do it gently because you don't want to develop gluten. So
I'm making this.
it was at this time I would have folded in the 4 stiff egg whites. And now I'm just going to fill each of these paper baking pans. Actually, I got these on Amazon. They're really great. They're professional baking pans. They do well. And after I filled everything up, I'm going to put foil over each of the baking pans. And we're going to cook them in the oven at a very low temperature, 250 degrees. Again, I'm just finishing filling them up, and then I'm going to put foil over each of the baking pans. And then I'm going to place them in the preheated 250 degree oven for 1.5 hours. And there'll be a pan in the oven that you'll see. It has about 1 inch of water in there because we're steaming them like a traditional fig pudding or that you would find in England. This is a holdover from England, these cakes. And you can see the pan down below with the water. And they will again bake for 1.5 hours at 250 degrees. A bain-marie is a French term. It's basically cooking with water on a different tray at steam. And now I'm mixing the apricot preserves. I'm just running it through a sieve to get out big pieces of fruit. I just need the jam or jelly in there. And then I'm adding 4 tablespoons of cognac, and I'm going to mix it up. And when the fruitcakes come out of the oven, I will brush the top of each fruitcake with the apricot preserves and cognac mixture. And it gives a nice glaze, but also a little bit more booze. And you can do this, you can do it once a week if you like. You don't have to use the apricot jelly just the first time. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. I guarantee you, with a cup of coffee or cup of tea, it's chef's kiss. Hi all, Welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. It's our first Vlogmas, and this is day 11. We're on hors d'oeuvres. This is a Southern hors d'oeuvre. This is something that my mama and I came up with using her shrimp salad. It is my mama's Southern shrimp dip. It's absolutely delicious. It's creamy, it's unctuous. You can't get enough of it. Ingredients you'll need: 1 pound of 1315 raw shrimp, 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of Old Bay seasoning, the zest of 1 lemon, a half a cup of mayonnaise, 1 red bell pepper, 2 tablespoons of finely chopped dill, 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese, 1 cup of diced celery, half a cup of finely chopped parsley, olive oil, and a French baguette. You'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. First up, I dice 1 cup of celery. It always takes a moment. So. And then I move on to finally dicing 1 red bell pepper. I find doing the vegetables first makes everything go fast. Everything lined up and then just super fast. Then I set them to the side in a bowl, and then I work on finely chopping a half a cup of parsley. And then I chop 2 tablespoons of dill. And then next, over a low-medium flame, I add 2 tablespoons of Old Bay to a saucepan that's been filled with water, and I bring the water to a simmer and I mix well. And then I add 1 pound of 1315 shrimp. And when the shrimp becomes pink, I remove it and plunge it into an ice bath. And when they cool, I remove them, drain them. Next, I move on to adding a half a cup of mayonnaise to a stand mixer bowl, then 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese, and I mix thoroughly. Then I add the zest of 1 lemon, it has all the same flavors that my mama's shrimp salad has. And now I'm just adding the 2 tablespoons of chopped dill to the mixing bowl, and I mix well. Next, I add 2 teaspoons of Old Bay seasoning, and then I scrape down the bowl. Next, I place freshly sliced pieces of baguette on a baking tray, and I brush them with a little olive oil before placing them in the preheated 350 degree oven to toast for 5 to 7 minutes. You just want them crispy, not hard. Next, I'm going to peel the shrimp and devein them if needed. Now, I purchased Walmart Easy Peel deveined shrimp. They're frozen and they're perfect. So it means there's 13 shrimp to 15 shrimp per pound. And I check each shrimp after I've peeled them to make sure there's no shell left on them before I start chopping the shrimp into very small pieces. And then next I add the chopped bell pepper and celery into the mayonnaise and mascarpone mixture. And I'll turn the mixer on low. Now, I wouldn't do this overnight. I would do this the same day. And the reason being is you want the vegetables to be crisp. It's very important. And then I remove the bowl from the stand mixer, and I'm going to fold the shrimp in. Now, again, you can make the shrimp smaller pieces if you like. This is just the size I like. And then next I put the shrimp dip into a bowl that's been lined with saran wrap. I'm doing a mold basically.
Wahoo!
And this bowl was given to me by my cousin Helen over at Helen Can't Imagine. and I'm just pulling the saran wrap over the dip and sealing it. She was right. These anchor hocking bowls and serving dishes came in handy. And next, I put the dip in the refrigerator. Again, you don't need to put it in there for too long. An hour is fine. You're just having it firm back up a little bit, because you don't want it to be too hard. You want to be able to get your knife through the dip
Look at that dog.
easily. And then I use finely chopped parsley that I did earlier, and I cover the dip in it, and I pat it on. It's just a nice decorative touch, especially for the holidays, and if you're having a party.
You can't really roll it in the parsley like you can with a ham and cheese ball. That's patting it into work. And it is working.
And then I move it over to a serving dish, and I'll surround it with the lightly toasted slices of French baguette that I made earlier. And this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. I guarantee you, if you make it, everyone will love it.
Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first one, and this is day 12. Southern hors d'oeuvres. This is one of my favorites. This is my mama's Southern beer cheese. Every family has a beer cheese recipe in the South. This is ours, and it's absolutely delicious and very addictive. Ingredients you'll need: 8 ounces of extra sharp cheddar, 1 clove of garlic, 8 ounces of Velveeta cheese, half a bottle of good beer, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. First off, I grate the cheese. It always just takes a moment because I use the hand grater, the box grater. Oh, a little snack for myself. And then I measure out 8 ounces of Velveeta cheese. Velveeta cheese just gives it a very smooth quality. Again, Velveeta cheese is all over the South. Everybody loves Velveeta cheese down here. And I just cut it up and I put it into the food processor. It just takes a moment. And we're going to add 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce and 1 clove of garlic and a half a bottle of good beer. We've always used Heineken, so that's what we use. But whatever beer you like. And then we're going to blend everything together in the food processor until it's velvety smooth. This takes about 5 minutes. I just let it go. And it's done. And then I just put it into ramekins. I usually serve it right away. You can store it in the refrigerator if you want, but you need to bring it back to room temperature before serving because it is quite thick. You don't want to break a cracker in there. And this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious and so addictive. I guarantee you, if you make it, everyone will ask you for the recipe. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first one, and this is day 13. We're on to Southern cocktails. Now, we have a lot of cocktails down here, but this is one of my favorite for the winter time. This is Southern mulled wine, and I believe its origins are from England. That's probably where it's so popular here in Virginia. Absolutely delicious. Ingredients you'll need: 1 teaspoon of whole cloves, 1.5 cups of cognac or brandy, 2 sticks of cinnamon plus more for serving, 1 teaspoon of cardamom seeds or 3 pods, the juice and peel of 1 orange and 1 sliced orange, 4.5 cups of good red wine. First up, I peel 1 orange and I add the peel to a non-reactive stock pot. It just takes a moment. And once I've peeled it, I'll slice it in half and then use my reamer and remove the juice from the orange and put it into the stock pot. This is actually one of my favorite cocktails. I'm not really a big drinker,
But I do like this at Christmas time. It's very nice. And again, I'm just going to juice the orange into the stock pot. And now I'm just going to slice one orange and then set it to the side. This is for when I serve the mulled wine. You put a couple slices in with a stick of cinnamon into each cup. And I'm just adding the red wine now. And now I'm adding the cognac. And I'm going to take a piece of cheesecloth that I cut off, and I'm going to add 2 sticks of cinnamon, then 1 teaspoon of whole cloves, and then 1 teaspoon of cardamom seeds. And then I'm going to wrap up the cheesecloth, and I'm going to tie it up, and then I'm going to throw the spices into the wine. And now I'm going to add a half a cup of brown sugar. You can use light or dark. I had light today. Dark would be perfectly acceptable though. And now I'm going to put the stock pot over a medium-high flame, and I'm going to bring it to a boil for 2 minutes, dissolving the sugar. And once I brought it to a boil for 2 minutes, then I turn it down to a medium-low flame. And I'll simmer it then for 30 minutes. And that's just to bring out all the orange oil from the peel, and of course the spices will give off their flavor. And I'm going to partially cover it with a lid for the 30 minutes. And then once it's done that, I remove from the heat, and then I remove the spice bundle and all the orange peel. And then I serve it in mugs. And I always put a few slices of oranges in each mug along with a cinnamon stick. It's just a nice touch. And again, it's a little boozy, but it's delicious, and everybody loves it, especially cold nights. It's very festive. And this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. I guarantee you, if you make it, people will love it. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas, and this is day 14. Southern hors d'oeuvres. I have a lot of them in my back pocket, so ready for the party season. Now these are my Southern mac and cheese balls. They're absolutely delicious and rather easy to make, surprisingly. Ingredients you'll need: 2 eggs, 4 ounces of velveted cheese, a 16-ounce box of elbow macaroni, a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of sea salt, 2 cups of panko breadcrumbs, 4 ounces of Parmesan cheese, 8 ounces of Monterey Jack cheese, 8 ounces of sharp cheddar, 4 ounces of Swiss cheese, 3 cups of whole milk, 1 quart of vegetable oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, and 1 cup of all-purpose flour. First off, I measure out the salt and the spices to go in the macaroni and cheese. I've added a teaspoon of garlic powder already to the plate. I'm adding 2 teaspoons of salt, and I'm adding a teaspoon of black ground pepper and a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. I've just measured out 3 cups of whole milk, and now I am putting salt into the water it's being boiled to the macaroni and cheese. It's over a high heat, obviously, and I'm adding a 16-ounce box of macaroni. And when it's done, I'm going to drain it, and I'll set it to the side. Next up, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of butter to a stock pot. And then I add 2 tablespoons of flour to the melted butter, now that it's melted. And I'm going to incorporate the fat and flour together, stirring it all around, cooking out the flour taste. Just takes a moment. And now I'm adding the milk 1 cup at a time. I want to fully incorporate it into the flour butter mixture, and so I don't have any lumps. So I do a little bit at a time. So at the very end, I can just pour it all in that's left. And this is a bechamel I'm making. And now I'm adding the rest of the milk. And I'm going to bring the mixture to a gentle simmer so we'll thicken. And then I'll add the cheese. But first I need to grate the cheese. So I'm measuring out all the cheeses to be grated. I've got the cheddar there. I have the Monterey Jack. And that's the Velveeta, which gives a nice creaminess. And it's salty too, so it's nice. And that is an Emmental I bought, which is a Swiss cheese, which actually normally goes into fondue. And we're going to grate all the cheeses. It takes a moment. And next I'm just going to add the pre-shredded Parmesan cheese, and that will do us for the cheese. It's a lot of cheese. And one of the reasons why I like adding Parmesan, because it adds like a nice salty umami. And now I'm just adding all the cheese to the bechamel, and I'm going to melt everything together. And I will say this, a tip. You want to watch your heat when you're adding the cheese to the bechamel, because it can become grainy if you have it too hot. So I keep it over a low, medium flame when I'm adding the cheese. And now I add all the spices and salt that I measured out earlier, and I mix well. And then I'll be adding the cooked macaroni and mix well. And finally, I am pouring all of the macaroni cheese out onto a baking sheet to cool. I'm going to actually cover it in saran wrap and put it in the refrigerator so it will cool faster. And I'm just spreading it out, and now I'm going to wrap it in saran wrap and put it in the refrigerator. And usually takes about an hour or two to cool down for me to be able to work with it, roll it into balls. I do use a cookie scoop, a 1-inch cookie scoop, to get the balls perfect. And then I roll it in my hands. Now once I brought the macaroni and cheese out that's cooled, I set up a breading station. And it's flour, cup of flour, and now I'm cracking 2 eggs in the second station. And I'll add a little water, and I'm going to beat it all together. And the final station, which is still empty, will be breadcrumbs. I have 2 cups I'm going to put in there. And with my 1-inch cookie scoop, I scoop the balls out and I roll them in my hands. And then I dredge them in the flour, and then the egg wash, and then finally the panko. And I'll put them on the plate to the side over here, the ones that are done. And I'll bring another plate actually on the other side. So I'll just roll the balls, and then I'll repeat all the process, all the breading station. Just repeating the same process until you get through all the balls. And it just takes a moment, but it's so well worth it. And now in a Dutch oven, over a high heat, I added a quart of oil, and I have a candy thermometer in there because I want to heat the oil to exactly 350 degrees so I can have perfect frying temperature. And I never crowd the pan. I only add a few in at a time. I add no more than 8 balls in there. The reason being is you don't want the temperature to drop. This would affect how things fry, and it would take on a lot of grease if you drop below a certain temperature, so you don't want that. They look gorgeous, don't they? And now I'm just finishing up the last batch. And I was thinking about how many balls do I actually get out of this recipe, and it's between 65 and 85, and that depends on how big the balls are. And though they look beautiful, this is how they look. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're delicious. I guarantee if you make them, they will be the showstopper. To help our channel grow, we're asking everybody to please like, subscribe, and comment. If you're enjoying our content, and we really hope that you are, please consider becoming a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help us out tremendously. We also ask that you please watch the video from beginning to end. This also helps us out. It's all because of how the YouTube algorithm works. Otherwise, we stay hidden. All these things are necessary for growth on YouTube, and we'd love to grow. Thank you all for your help. See you soon. Happy holidays! It's Vlogmas! Yay! It's our first one. We're very excited. We have a new video every day from December 1st through December 24th. On the weekdays, it goes up at 3 p.m. and on the weekends, they go up at 9 a.m. So don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. And if you're not subscribed, please consider becoming a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out tremendously. We have a lot of great content coming up, and we're very excited to be showing you. See you soon. Thank you all for watching. We're very grateful to our new and old subscribers for supporting us and helping us grow. We know that Hurricanes Helene and Milton have destroyed lives and communities, affecting so many who live here in the South. They have a very long road to recovery, and with the cold weather setting in and the holidays almost upon us, we're encouraging you to help those in need by donating to the American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, World Central Kitchen, All Hands and Hearts, AmeriCares, Operation Blessing, and Save the Children. We're not affiliated with any of these organizations, but we know they're doing great work on the ground. And so, as always, please stay safe and be blessed, and happy holidays. Hi, all. Welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. It's our first one, and we're very excited. It's day 15. Southern cocktails. I'm not a big drinker, but I do like to partake in the holidays. And it's Southern Milk Punch. It's our version of eggnog. It's simpler and it's just as delicious. Ingredients you'll need: a 1/4 cup of cognac or brandy, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, a 1/4 cup of whole milk, 1/8 of a teaspoon plus a pinch of ground nutmeg, a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream, and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. First up, making this simple syrup. It's equal parts of sugar and water. So it's 1/2 cup of granulated sugar and 1/2 cup of boiling water. And I'm just going to stir until I dissolve all of the sugar. And this just takes a moment, like everything. And then next I add a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream to a measuring cup, and then a 1/4 cup of whole milk, and then a 1/4 cup of cognac. You can just use regular brandy if you want. And then I add a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 3 tablespoons of simple syrup that we just made. You can add more if you want, if you like it sweeter. And then 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and then just mix well. And then we're going to serve it over ice in glasses with a garnish of a little pinch of nutmeg. And this is why we call it milk punch. It's really good. It is basically eggnog, except no egg. And garnish, of course, with a pinch of nutmeg on each glass. And this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorite because you can't taste the alcohol. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first one, and we are on day 16. Southern hors d'oeuvres. Now this is a classic. This is a ham and cheese ball. This is smoked ham and smoked cheddar cheese. It's absolutely delicious. It's so addictive. Make it, everyone will love it. Ingredients you'll need: 1 cup of chopped smoked ham, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 2 green onions, 8 ounces of cream cheese, 1/2 cup of smoked cheddar, 1/2 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, 4 tablespoons of chopped chives, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 1/2 cup of pecans,
and 4 tablespoons of finely chopped parsley. Now first up, I'm just going to grate the cheddar cheese. Now again, this is smoked cheddar cheese, so it has a lot of flavor. It's a very addictive flavor, I'll just say that. And now I add the cream cheese to the stand mixing bowl. I don't know why, it's always so difficult to get it off. And then I'm adding 1 teaspoon of garlic powder and 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and I'm mixing. And now I'm going to add the cheddar cheese. Just mix well. And now I'm going to chop up 2 tablespoons of chives. Again, I have the worst chopping skills, but unfortunately, the herbs I have to use a knife and a cutting board. Next, I'll be chopping up 1 cup of smoked ham. If you can't find smoked ham, then just regular ham is fine, but it does add such a tremendous amount of flavor, and it just is so incredibly addictive, the smoked ham in there. And now I'm adding a 1/2 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And now I'm going to add the ham and chives. Now you can add the ham and chives with the mixer off and just fold everything in. And now I'm just chopping up 2 tablespoons of parsley to go in the mixture, and I'll fold that in. I'd actually meant to fold in the ham and chives, but I was kind of tired. It's Vlogmas, and I've had a lot going on. And now I'm just folding in the parsley. Now I'm just going to be molding it. I line a small bowl with saran wrap, and then I put the filling of the cheese ball in there, and then I mold it. I pick it up and I spin the saran wrap around. I make sure all the filling's in there, and that's to get a ball. And I'll put it in the refrigerator overnight for it to set. And the next day, I finally chop a 1/2 cup of pecans and 2 tablespoons of chives. And this is for the coating on the outside of the cheese ball. And I mix it together, and then I put it in a bowl and set it to the side, and then I work on chopping the parsley, and I'll chop it very finely. And then after I've done that, I put it in the bowl, and then I work on the green onions. I have 2 green onions here. And I finally chop them, and I run my knife over them a couple times as well as slicing them. And I put them in the bowl, and because I have a lid, these are the Anchor Hocking ones that my cousin gave me. I shake it up, but stirring is fine. And then I'm gonna try to shape the ball one more time to try to get a really nice ball if I can. It's still pretty soft because it is cream cheese. So, and then I unwrap it, and I set it to the side. And now I'm going to pour the herb and pecan coating into a shallow dish, and I'm going to unwrap, or I should say take the saran wrap completely off and begin coating the cheese ball in the pecan and herb mixture. And I flip it over. I mainly just pat it in because it is very soft. And somebody asked me if you could put pecans inside. You can, but if you're going to do that, I would serve it right away, and I would toast the pecans first. The problem with pecans, they will absorb moisture, so
yeah, I would toast them and I would serve it almost immediately after mixing it up. I wouldn't bother with trying to do it overnight because the pecans become very soft. And if you want that different mouthfeel of a crunch and the soft. And so I place it on a serving dish and I serve it with Ritz crackers. And this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. I guarantee if you make it, everyone will love it and be asking you for the recipe because it's so delicious. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas and this is day 17. Southern desserts. Now, we're known for our pecan pie down here, and this is just my grandma's southern pecan squares. They're just basically a pie in a square form. They're delicious and perfect for a party. Ingredients you'll need: 3.5 cups of pecans, half a cup of honey, half a cup of firmly packed brown sugar, 2/3 cup of powdered sugar, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, cooking oil spray, 2/3 cup and 3/4 cup of butter, 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and you'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. First up, we're going to be chopping 3.5 cups of pecans in the food processor. You can use a cutting board and knife if you'd like. It's just faster with the food processor if you've got one. And we're looking for a coarse chop. And once I've done this, then I move on to actually preparing the sauce with the pie filling, so to speak. So I'm adding 2/3 cup of butter into a stock pot. And I'm half a cup of firmly packed brown sugar, and then a half a cup of honey. And then I add 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. Then I'm going to put the pot on the stove on over a high medium flame. We're going to actually be boiling this for 2 minutes. I'm sorry for the shaky camera move. I need to get a better tripod. So we're just boiling this for 2 minutes. And after it's boiled for 2 minutes, we'll add the pecans. And once that's done, we'll just take it off the heat and let it sit for a moment while we make the cookie bottom. It's actually a shortbread, the bottom of the square. So now I'm just adding 2/3 cup of powdered sugar to a food processor and 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And this is different than making an actual pie dough because we're using 3/4 cups of butter. We're not using any water, and we're not pulsing this. We're actually just blending it. So we get like almost like a sand, very fine. And I've already prepared the baking dish next to the food processor. I did it with cooking spray. And so it's like sand now, and I'm able to put it between my fingers and it holds. You'll notice that I did that. And now I'm just going to pour it into the baking dish that's already been prepared with the baking spray. And I'm going to pat it out. You'll see me. And the warmth of your hands is going to melt the butter a little bit. And you'll see, I'll just keep patting it and patting it and patting it. And eventually, it will hold together. You'll see. As always, everything takes a minute. And there you go. See how great it looks? And now I'm going to place this into the preheated 350-degree oven. And I'm going to bake it for 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes, I'll bring it out. I'm just looking for a light golden on top. I'll let it cool before I work with it anymore. It's cooled, and now I'm going to pour the hot pecan pie filling over the crust. And spread it out to all the corners, and make sure that the filling, the actual liquid part, is on every corner. These are always such a hit because people love pecan pie. But this is just, you can pick it up and carry it around. Makes it a lot easier. I'm also very partial to taking my grandma's pumpkin pie and turning it into a slab pie, which is basically a very thin pie that you put in a baking sheet. It's really good. And now I'm just baking the squares off at 25 to 30 minutes in the 350 degree preheated oven. And when I bring it out, you have to let it rest because it's like molten lava. It has to be completely cooled and set if you really want it to work. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. I tell you, if you make them, people will love you. Probably name their firstborn child after you. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas. This is day 18. It's a little different. We're doing my grocery haul plus what's coming up this coming week and next week. From Walmart. Order coming because, well, it's Christmas. We're doing a little entertaining. So I've got herb and garlic cheese mascarpone. I've got extra sharp cheddar. I've got Monterey Jack, I think that is, or that's mozzarella, Monterey Jack. I've got some dill up there. I've got some vanilla wafers. I've got cooking spray, elbow pasta, cream cheese, shrimp. I've got vanilla wafers, I think I mentioned, ginger ale, parsley. Then I've got milk, and I've got half and half with some scallions, or green onions, and people say different things around the country. Sugar, I've got carrots, I've got a red bell pepper, I've got some baby cucumbers. I got this cooking olive oil, on the recommendation of America's Test Kitchen. They said it was really good, and so I'm going to try it. I've got some Martha White cornmeal mix, and I've got some ground dill corn. I've got oranges. I've got more star candies because they've all been eaten. It's not even Christmas yet. I've got some pretzels there for dipping, potato chips for dipping, lemons, celery, more Ritz cracker. I got the family size because we go through them like it's water. Hang on. And then we've got some artichoke hearts and sausage, for breakfast. And then lemon juice. This is good for, I can't be squeezing lemon every time we have iced tea. We'd go through a million if I did that. And then, of course, capers. This is very convenient. You wonder if it's any good. It tastes just like like you squeeze it yourself, and it's a lot cheaper than buying a bag, which I did buy. And this is my haul from Walmart. I'm sorry it was so chaotic. All right. This is my Amazon order. Who owns Whole Foods, but this is just Amazon. I do need some things. They forgot the Parmesan cheese, but that's okay. We're gonna go tomorrow anyways. We're going up to Whole Foods to see what they've got meat-wise. So down here I've got some smoked ham. I got a steak for hors d'oeuvre. I've got 4 things of butter. Yes, 4 things of butter. I've got puffed pastry shells for a dish that my mama used to make when I was little. Peeled garlic, it's perfect when you have a lot of cooking. Eggs, a lot of eggs. Chives, cranberries, obviously. Gotta have those, it's holidays. Butternut squash, salt and pepper, kettle chips. These yummy flavor bomb, sugar bomb, little cherry tomatoes. Peas, I love bird's eye Italian sausage. I've got smoked cheddar cheese. I've got organic roasted potatoes. I've got creme fraiche. I've got cinnamon sticks. I've got sage. I've got whole cardamom. I've got minced ginger, and I've got dark brown sugar. I think I got everything. And this was my haul from Amazon. So coming up tomorrow, we have my grandma's cornbread and sausage dressing. And then on Friday, we have my grandma's mincemeat pies with a brandy cream. And then on Saturday, we have my pigs in a blanket with a mustard dipping sauce. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. It's our first Vlogmas ever and we're super excited. We're on day 19. We're doing Southern side dishes today. This is something that's all over the South. It is a cornbread and sausage dressing. And if you stuff it in the turkey, then it's considered stuffing, but we're doing it in baking dishes. It's absolutely delicious. I guarantee if you make it, everyone will ask you for the recipe. Ingredients you'll need: 4 large eggs, 2 tablespoons of poultry seasoning, 6 cups of homemade cornbread, 2 large sweet onions, a package of Pepperidge Farm herb seasoned breadcrumbs or 6 cups of dried out oven breadcrumbs, 1 leek, 3 cups of diced celery, a teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1 pound of sausage, 4 cups of chicken stock, and you'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. First up, I make the 4 cups of chicken stock from Better Than Bouillon. I find it the best. If you're going to use carton, I suggest Swanson, or homemade if you can. And 3 cups of diced celery is what I next work on. This is the most time-consuming part because you have to do it by hand, and I'm not the best chopper. And then I measure out the 3 cups and I put them to the side in a bowl until I'm ready to use them. Next, I take the top and the bottom off of the leek, and then I'm gonna finely slice the leek. And once I've done this, I'm going to wash the leek very well, breaking up all the leaves in the water, making sure there are no hidden pockets of sand because it grows in very sandy soil and it takes up a lot of the sand into the inner leaves. So you have to really wash it out or you will get a mouthful of sand and you will be cursing at Thanksgiving dinner. So it's really important. Whenever you do a leek, you got to really wash it very well. And then I just use a spider to bring it out and set it to the side in a bowl now that it's been thoroughly washed. I've shown before how much sand is at the bottom, so you don't need to see that. And I take 2 halved onions that have been peeled, they're sweet onions, and I put them in the food processor and I blitz them up until they're finely chopped. And there you go. And then I add 1 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper to a bowl. And then I do the poultry seasoning. Now you can make your own poultry seasoning, but that's a lot of work and I'm not going to do that. It's just much easier to do this. And then I take over a medium flame, I add sausage to a stock pot. This is one of my 6-quart Dutch ovens that I have, and I stir well as I cook the sausage, breaking up any big pieces. And then I add a stick of butter. You can use salted or unsalted, it's up to you. I think this day I only had salted, so that's fine. And once I've done that, I just keep stirring it and melt the butter. And I will next add in the celery, I believe. Yes, I add the celery in. And now, what I don't show here is I'm adding the celery, I'll add the leeks, I'll add the onion, I'll stir around. And usually I cook it for like 10 minutes to soften the vegetables, even before I put in the poultry seasoning and pepper. And now I'm just adding in the onions. Now, something my grandma did. She made bread almost every day, I believe, understand. So she had a lot of fresh bread and stale bread hanging around to make breadcrumbs. It's much more convenient for people to buy the packages of Pepperidge Farm, and it's perfectly acceptable. I have linked below, and now I'm just adding the black pepper and the poultry seasoning. I have linked below her recipe for cornbread. It's a double recipe, by the way. And 4 cups of chicken stock I've just added that I made. You can use the carton if you have homemade, that's great. I like better than bouillon. It's just cost effective and it tastes pretty good. Meanwhile, I am toasting the broken breadcrumbs in a 350-degree oven for 30 to 40 minutes to dry them out. And now I'm going to break up the 4 eggs into a bowl and I'm going to beat them. And then next I'm going to temper them. I've taken some of the broth off of, out of the stock pot, the Dutch oven, and I'm going to add slowly the broth in here to temper the eggs so they don't become scrambled eggs. And then I pour the tempered eggs back into the broth that I've taken on out of the pan. And now I'm just adding the eggs back into the stock pot that has the broth. And then I'm going to add the seasoned breadcrumbs or homemade breadcrumbs, up to you. And then I add the oven dried out cornbread. This is the homemade cornbread. It's my grandma's recipe. I've linked it down below in the description. It's a double recipe, by the way. And then just mix everything together. You're just hydrating everything. It has so many aromatics in there. It's so delicious. And now I fill a greased baking dish. These are greased baking dishes, by the way. I don't show it, but it is greased with the cornbread stuffing. And then I'm going to place them in the 375-degree oven for 45 to 50 minutes. You want to serve it hot, so when you bring it out, serve right away. And you can always reheat it. It'll taste great the next day as well. And this is what it looks like. It's absolutely delicious. Make it. Everyone will love it. I guarantee you. Hi all. Welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first one and we are on day 20 now. I never do this at the beginning of the video, but to help our channel grow, please like, subscribe, and comment. It doesn't cost you anything to become a subscriber, but it does help us out tremendously. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Southern hors d'oeuvres. This is one of my favorite hors d'oeuvres. These are my pigs in a blanket with a mustard dipping sauce. Both are incredibly easy to make. Ingredients you can keep on hand and bring out anytime you need a quick hors d'oeuvre. They're absolutely delicious. Ingredients you'll need: 6 all-beef hot dogs, 1 sheet of puff pastry, everything bagel sprinkles, 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and you'll need to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. And first up, I cut each hot dog into fourths. So you get 4 pieces out of each hot dog. And I do prefer Hebrew National, but whatever you like. And after 1 hour of defrosting the puff pastry, I unravel it gently. And then I place the puff pastry on a lightly floured, dusted surface. And I take the backing off, and then I dust the top of it as well, the puff pastry with flour, and then I brush off any excess. And then I cut the puff pastry into strips.
And because every hot dog's different, I can't tell you the dimension. You'll just have to hold your hot dog up like I am right now to see what works. And now I just roll up each piece of hot dog. I trim off the excess puff pastry and I seal it. It's pretty fast and self-explanatory. One of the reasons why I like using puff pastry is because it's so readily available. I can always keep a package in the freezer and even a package of hot dogs in the freezer. I always have mustard and mayo and sugar on hand. And I usually always have everything bagel sprinkles, which I love. And I just repeat the process until I run out of pieces of hot dog and I wrap everything up. Again, it's just, everything takes time. But this is an hors d'oeuvre that is so well worth it and is such a crowd pleaser. Who doesn't love pigs in blanket? I understand the English do theirs differently. They wrap theirs in bacon. We do some things wrapped in bacon, but usually not little hot dogs. Usually it's something like a shrimp or a scallop, which is very good wrapped in bacon, by the way. And I think I'm almost done. I have one more piece to go and then I'll be done. And then I'm going to do an egg wash, which is, I've showed you how to do an egg wash a million times, but I'll show you again. It's just 1 egg and then 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. We're going to beat everything together until it's really well blended. And then once I've done that, I laid out all the pigs in blanket. I'm just going to brush on the egg wash over each of the pigs in blanket. And then after that, I'll take a bowl and I'll sprinkle 1/4 cup of the everything bagel. Now, if you don't want to use the everything bagel sprinkle, you don't have to. You can use poppy seeds or sesame seeds, or just do the egg wash and that's it. But I try not to put a lot of it on because this does have salt in it, and I find it's too salty if you put more than just a tiny strip of it on there. So I think next time I'm just going to use poppy seeds or sesame. And now I'm going to place it in the preheated 400-degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes to bake. And remember, the hot dog is already cooked, so you're just cooking the puff pastry. And when it's golden brown, you just bring it out. And you're going to want to let them cool for a little bit. It'd be too hot, you serve them right away. So you need to let them cool off for about 5-10 minutes. Now I'm adding 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard to a bowl and with 1/4 cup of mayo, and I'm mixing around. Then I'm going to add a tablespoon of sugar. And this gives a nice balance between the sharpness of the mustard and the creaminess of the mayonnaise. And it's a nice dipping sauce. It's very simple. And then I put the sauce into a ramekin and I put everything onto a serving dish. I think white is always nice. And then I always sprinkle a little bit of parsley on the dipping sauce to kind of give it a nice little bit of green, as my cousin Helen always says. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. If you try them, if you make them, people will love them, and you can always keep the ingredients on hand. Hi all! Welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first one, and we're on day 21. Woohoo! Southern hors d'oeuvres. Southern cheese straws. Everyone has a recipe. They're absolutely delicious. There's a reason why everybody has a recipe. It's basically the same recipe. They've been around since the English colonists came over. Ingredients you'll need: 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt, 8 ounces of sharp cheddar cheese, 1 stick of softened unsalted butter, a pinch of cayenne, 1 teaspoon of powdered Coleman's English mustard, and 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. And you'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. First up, I grate the cheese. I have extra sharp cheddar here.
You can use mild, whatever you choose, but I would suggest it at least be sharp because the flavor profile is close to a Cheez-It. That's the closest I can tell you what it's like. So it's always better if you have a little sharper cheese. And I take the 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour and I put it in a fine mesh strainer over a bowl. And I'm going to add everything to this, and then I'm going to sift it. Now, if you want to add more, I'm adding a teaspoon of Coleman's powdered mustard. You can add more if you want, but that's what we add. And 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt, and then a pinch of cayenne. And then I'm going to shake everything together and sift it, and then put the bowl to the side once I'm done sifting all the flour mixture. And then I move on to putting the stick of softened unsalted butter in the stand mixer bowl, and I whip the butter on high. And now I'm going to add the cheddar cheese that I grated earlier. And I mix on medium. And then I scrape down the bowl. And then I add the flour mixture and I mix on low. And this is going to look like pebbles almost because it needs a little moisture, and that's why we're going to be adding 3 tablespoons of water. But first I've got to get through this portion of it before I can do that. And then I'll turn it off once I get it to about there, and then I scrape down the bowl, and then I put it back, do it again, and then I add 3 tablespoons of water. And this, all of a sudden it will come together and you won't know why, but it's the water. And I forgot to lock it, so that's why I was jumping around. And it's on low. And now I'm gonna take it out, and I've dusted the surface. I have a silicone pad there, and I should say matte, and with flour. And then I put the dough, and I take another silicone sheet, or you can use 2 sheets of wax paper if you have that, and roll the dough in between it. Now you could either use a cookie press or you could use this method. I'm using this method because I can't find the cookie press. So there's always a reason, as my mama would say. And this always takes a minute because I want it to be 1/8 of an inch thick. And now I've peeled the top sheet off. And then I just square off the dough before that I rolled out. And I'll just reuse this dough and roll it out again. And I'm going to cut them about 1/4 inch wide strips for the dough. That's what I'm looking for. And it's kind of a willy-nilly thing. I mean, it's just, some people are really good. Some people use rulers. I don't have a ruler, so I'm just free-forming it. And this is what they look like when you put them on the pan. I try to arrange them as neatly as possible and not too close together because there's a little bit of a rise, not too much. And this is not self-rising flour. This is just plain all-purpose flour. So I'm going to be placing it in the refrigerator for 15 minutes, and that will help with the rise because the butter, the steam will come off and get a little bit of a rise. It's going to bake between 8 to 10 minutes in a 350-degree oven. And now I just repeat the process with any extra dough I have. And again, it should make between, I believe, 40 to 60 cheese straws. It just depends on how you roll them out and how good you are at it. because there can be some waste if you're not careful. And then I bring them out of the oven. I just cool them on a wire rack. And they'll keep in a storage container probably about a week. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. They're great with cocktails. And when I say everybody in the South serves these, I really mean it. Everybody has a recipe. That's how great they are. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This is our first Vlogmas ever, and we are on day 22. Woohoo! We are on hors d'oeuvres today, and this is not a Southern hors d'oeuvre, but it's Italian stuffed mushrooms. This is Ina Gartner's recipe that I've just adapted and I've changed a little bit. It's absolutely delicious. Ingredients you'll need: 5 tablespoons of olive oil, 4 tablespoons of finely chopped parsley, 6 finely chopped green onions, 16 large mushrooms, 6 tablespoons of Marsala wine or sherry, 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese, 5 ounces of mascarpone cheese, 3/4 pound of sweet Italian sausage, 4 garlic cloves, pepper to taste, and 2/3 cup of panko breadcrumbs. You'll need to preheat your oven to 325 degrees. Now first off, I wash my mushrooms, and yes, I do wash them. I do so because of Alton Brown. I saw one of his videos on YouTube. If you don't know who he is, you should check him out. I remove the stems from the mushrooms and I set them to the side, and just leaving the cap of the mushroom cap that I'm going to fill with stuffing later on. But you chop up the stems to go in the stuffing. This is one of my most involved recipes. And this is 2.5 tablespoons of sherry or Marsala wine into a small bowl. And after this, I'll add 3 tablespoons of olive oil into the same bowl. And then I'm going to drizzle this all over the mushroom caps to marinate it, basically. And then once I've done that, I've mixed it around, I'm going to finely chop the mushroom stems. This will go in the stuffing. I've tried to give you a mix of things that are harder to do, a lot more time consuming, to really easy things. This is one of my favorite because I really love mushrooms. And I finely chopped the green onions, white and green. And then once I do that, I move on to finely chopping 4 tablespoons of parsley. And now I'm adding, over a high-medium flame, 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the stock pot. This is my one you always see. I'm always using the same one. I love my Dutch oven. And then I'm just going to use my spatula to spread the oil around the bottom of the pan. And then I've already removed the casing of the sweet Italian sausage, and I'm going to use the back of my spatula, and I think I move on to a wooden spoon, to break it up into small pieces. It takes a moment. Because you need the pieces to be rather small, because you're stuffing it into a little tiny mushroom cap. And this is what it looks like after I've done all that. And now I add the chopped mushroom stems. I mix well. And then I'm going to be adding, I use a garlic press. You can finely mince the garlic if you wish, but I find the garlic press very easy. and well worth the $10 I paid for it. And her recipe only called for 3, but I love garlic, so I added an extra one. And now I'm just going to add the green onions, the finely chopped green onions that I chopped earlier. And then I'm going to add an extra 1/4 cup of sherry. It can either be sherry or Marsala wine. And I thought it tasted better with a little bit more wine in it. And now I'm adding the panko breadcrumbs, mixing well. And then I am adding the mascarpone cheese and mixing well. Off the heat, add 2½ tablespoons of the chopped parsley. I saved 1½ for garnishment. And now I'm also adding the Parmesan cheese. I'm going to mix everything together well. And then I'm going to season to taste with salt and pepper. I didn't add any salt because, of course, my mama is not supposed to have salt, so. And now I have a baking pan that I lined with foil just to make cleanup easier. And I'm just going to line the mushroom caps in the pan. And then I'm going to fill each mushroom cap with stuffing. And I actually had quite a bit of stuffing left over, so I'm just going to save it for some other mushroom caps that I still have. I have another package. I'll just make another round of these for hors d'oeuvres. And these can keep in the refrigerator for a few days and then reheated, but you should serve them hot. Now I'm going to put this in the preheated 325-degree oven for 50 minutes. That's how long it goes. These are so delicious, and of course they're excellent when they're hot, even when they're cold. I love stuffed mushrooms. This is an excellent recipe. I did garnish with some parsley that I'd saved, put to the side, and they're so good, so good. And this is what they look like. I won't say they're beautiful, but they taste amazing. The recipe's a little bit more complex than I've been showing you, but they're so good. I promise if you make them, everybody will love them. Hi all, welcome to A Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This was our first Vlogmas and we are on day 23. Woohoo! Southern desserts. This is my mama's favorite category. I'm making my grandma's Southern traditional gingerbread cake. This cake came over with the English colonists back in the 1600s. Ingredients you'll need: 2/3 cup of brown sugar, 2/3 cup of molasses, 2/3 cup of boiling water, 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, 2 tablespoons of minced ginger, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of ground allspice, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1/4 cup of powdered sugar for dusting, 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, and pan baking spray with flour. You'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. First off, to a large mixing bowl, I add 1/4 teaspoon of the ground nutmeg. And then I do a 1/4 teaspoon of the ground allspice, and then 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And then I do a 1/4 teaspoon of the ground black pepper. And then I add a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and then 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, And then I add 2 tablespoons of minced ginger. And then I spray the baking dish with the pan baking spray with flour. It's my favorite. And nothing ever sticks with this spray. It's wonderful. And then I'm going to add to the stand mixing bowl a 2/3 cup of brown sugar. And 2/3 cup of molasses. And then I mix together. And then I add 4 tablespoons of cubed unsalted butter. And I measure out 2/3 cup of boiling water. And I mix until the butter has melted. And then I add the minced ginger to the stand mixing bowl. And now I'm measuring out 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour to the bowl that has spice in it, the spices that I measured out already. So now I'm adding 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of the kosher salt. And before adding the egg, I waited 20 minutes for the liquid to cool off. Otherwise, you'll cook the egg before it actually gets mixed in. And then now I'm adding the flour spice mixture until it's just barely combined. You don't want to overmix it. Because your cake can puff up in weird places and it'll become tough as well. And I scraped on the bowl, and I'm going to mix for no more than 5 to 10 seconds after this.
This cake can remind you of anything, Mama? What?
And I'm going to put it in a baking dish. I believe that I used, I want to say an 8 by 11, maybe a 9 by 13. I can't remember. Either one will do, or you can use a square one. And next, I tap on the pan like I always do to release any air bubbles. But I'm going to place it in the preheated 350-degree oven for 25 minutes. But I'll use a toothpick to make sure it's done. If it comes out clean, it's done. After it comes out, I let it rest for an hour on a wire rack, and then I wrap it up overnight. And now I'm just going to dust it with powdered sugar. Now I'm adding a cup of heavy whipping cream to the stand mixing bowl, and I'll turn it on high. I'm looking for a stiff peak. I forgot to add a tablespoon of powdered sugar into the heavy whipping cream, but I'll add it at the end. That's fine. And now I'm going to cut the cake into 12 even slices. You can freeze this, by the way, and it will keep for a few months in the freezer in an airtight container. And now I'm going to add the tablespoon of powdered sugar that I should have added at the beginning, and I'm just going to fold it on in. And now I'm just going to place a slice on a dish and serve with a generous dollop of whipped cream. On each slice is how you want to serve it. And this is how it looks. It's absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorite. It has such a strong, intense ginger flavor. It's incredible. Hi all, welcome to a Southern Woman's Lifestyle Vlogmas. This was our first Vlogmas, and this is the last day, day 24. Woohoo! If you're enjoying our content, and we really hope that you are, please consider becoming a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help us out tremendously. Also, comment and like and watch the video from beginning to end. 81% of people who watch our videos aren't subscribed. If you subscribe, this does help us out tremendously. Thank you all. Southern desserts, my mama's favorite section. These are my grandma's southern mincemeat pies. They're a family favorite. We make them every holiday. Ingredients you'll need: 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 egg, 12 tablespoons of ice cold butter, the zest of 2 oranges, 3/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, 2 teaspoons of ground nutmeg, 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar, 2 tablespoons of cognac, 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, 3/4 cups of mascarpone cheese, 6 to 8 tablespoons of ice water, and 3/4 cups of homemade or store-bought mincemeat. You'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. First off, I make the brandy cream. I put 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream into the stand mixing bowl, and I whip on high. Add 3 tablespoons of powdered sugar. I'm using Gordon Ramsay's recipe, but I do add more powdered sugar than he does. He only does 2. And then I add 2 tablespoons of cognac. And then I take the whipped cream out of the mixing bowl and I put it in a bowl and set it to the side. Next, I take 3/4 cup of mascarpone cheese and I put it in the stand mixing bowl and I'm going to whip. I want to break it up a little bit, make it smoother, because I'm going to be adding the whipped cream to it. And now I'm going to fold in heavy whipping cream, the one that I just made with the sugar and the cognac. I'm just folding it in. I'm doing a half at a time. I'm just loosening this up a little bit. I don't want to lose too much air, so that's why I put half of it in first and just mix it in with the mascarpone cheese, and then I'll put the rest in, fold it in. It is so delicious. And of course, if you want to add more powdered sugar because you like it sweeter, you can. And then I just put it in a storage container. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator until I'm ready to use it. Next, I'm going to make the dough. And this is my grandma's recipe modified. I had seen a young lady put orange zest and nutmeg in hers. And I thought, well, I'm going to take my grandma's recipe and I'm going to add that. So that's what I did. So it's 2.5 cups of flour and then 1/3 cup of granulated sugar. Sorry, I almost forgot that part. And then I add the zest of 2 oranges. She only did 1. I thought it really needed 2 because I did a trial run with it. Her oranges may have been bigger. I don't remember. And then once I've done that, I add the 2 teaspoons of nutmeg. It's teaspoons, not tablespoons. And once I've done that, I'm going to blitz everything together in the food processor just to combine everything before I add the butter and everything else. And now I'm adding 12 tablespoons of cubed ice cold butter. I always put everything in the freezer. I keep so much butter in there. And now I'm just going to pulse until I get pea-sized pieces of butter. And I'm going to check to see if I've done that. I can see through the little hole in the top, but it's always best to put your fingers in there and squeeze it to see if it holds. And now I'm going to start by adding 2 tablespoons at a time of the ice water, and I'm going to pulse as I do this. And I believe, everything is different. Sometimes it's very humid
and you need less water. Sometimes you need more water because it's very dry outside. It's really by touch and feel. So I ended up using 8 tablespoons today. But I just do 2 at a time as I pulse. The reason why I pulse is I don't want to break up too much of the butter. And I decided I needed 2 more tablespoons, so I added 2 more tablespoons. There you go. And now I put the finished pie dough in a plastic bag, and I'm going to shape it. This is the easiest way to shape it into a disc. And now I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for no less than 30 minutes before I start to roll it out. And before I start to roll it out, after it's chilled in the refrigerator, I generously dust my work surface with flour. And I really need a new rolling pin there. I'm going to roll it out to 1/8 of an inch thickness, by the way. Now this recipe for mincemeat, the filling, I think it goes back, I want to say 150 years, maybe 125. I can't remember. Somebody told me. I think it was my mama who told me. But yeah. You just want to make sure that you continually move your dough around because you don't want it to stick to the board. And brush off any extra flour because you don't want to add that back into the dough. It would make it very tough, the dough. And now I'm just cutting out circles that are 1.5 inch to 2 inches in diameter. And I chose to use a mini muffin tin today. I think last year I used just a regular muffin tin. It's up to you what you want. I decided to make smaller ones this year. And since we already made the mincemeat way back on, I think it was October 9th, is what the canning jar says. And I'm going to keep filling the muffin tin with pie dough until I fill them all up. And then I'll move on to making the toppers. I couldn't find my star, so I used trees this year. I don't know where it went. It's somewhere. Thing about kitchen gadgets, they don't have legs unless one of your relatives comes over. Which is possible, but I don't think so. And once that's done, I fill each pie shell with the mincemeat filling that my mama and I made all the way back. I think it was October 9th, yeah. And then once that's done, I will start putting the toppers on them, the little trees. They came out really cute. And I wanted to say too, if you don't feel your mincemeat, if you follow my grandma's recipe and you don't feel it's loose enough, you can always add a bit of cognac. That will loosen it up, because sometimes when they sit in the jar, they become really, the fruit absorbs all of that moisture and it becomes a little bit more stiffer to work with. So, and now I'm going to place it in the refrigerator for 20 minutes so it can get cold again before I put it in the oven. And I'm going to make the egg wash, and it's just 1 egg with 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and I beat everything together until it's smooth. And then next, I'm going to brush each mincemeat pie with the egg wash.
And next I'm just going to sprinkle some finishing sugar on top of it on each of the pies. And then I'll put it in the preheated 350 degree oven for 10 to 14 minutes. What you're looking for is a light golden color. But sometimes, you know, all ovens are different, so that's why I say light golden. Now just place it in the oven. Again, 10 to 14 minutes until light golden. And you bring them out. You want to let them cool a little bit because they're like lava in the middle. But you serve them warm with the prepared brandy cream. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious. I promise you, if you get to make these, your family will love you, and you'll make them every year because they're so delightful and delicious and just scream Christmas. We hope everyone has a Merry Christmas in August. And we post videos every week, 3 times, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. and on Sundays at 11. We'll see y'all soon.